Hello, YouTube.
We are live on YouTube. Is there anything specific you want to say to YouTube other than welcome? That sounded a lot like the "You've Got Mail." No, we're live. What do you mean?
While you still can. No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I don't know. Welcome to another Tuesday live stream.
Yeah, we're trying to get everything working.
Get your questions ready.
Perfectly.
You might have noticed we're in a new set. We are going virtual to the next level of virtual.
Really slow. So we are.
Are we live on Facebook?
We're not live on Facebook yet. We're about to go live on Facebook. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so real choppy. That was rough. Okay, we're live on Facebook and YouTube right now.
Hello, hello.
We're absolutely live. Guys, welcome. Give us a second. We're not dropping frames. We're good. Perfect. Welcome to the Inner Solutions live stream for November 24th, 2020. And let me tell you, we are just shy of 2 weeks away. 2 weeks or 3 weeks away from the launch of our group coaching program. It's exciting.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, it is exciting.
It's like 2 weeks. 2 weeks with our group coaching program. So our group coaching program is going to include 2 sessions per week. The first session will be a lesson, will be a warm-up, a lesson, a Q&A, and then the second session will be a review and a lot more time of a Q&A. So personalized Q&A, so a perfect way to connect with peers going through the same thing as you are in real time, and also gather the support that you need, as well as helping other people by asking your questions, sharing your stories in a really beautiful, personalized way, all in a safe way during this pandemic from the comfort of your own home. So that's the group coaching program. If you're interested, you can message us here on Facebook and or reach out and ask for more information. We'll be happy to share it with you. Enis, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. This is the first time we've done a live stream from not together, right? We're usually at the studio.
Yeah.
Today I'm at the apartment, my apartment, and we managed to get all the technical stuff together. It was we were just moments ago. I was trying to fix the focus because it was it kept zooming out, and as I faded out, it felt like I was just disappearing into the void. But we got that figured out, and so I'm excited. I'm excited to test this new platform, this new way of talking. Even though you're not here, I still feel like you're here. So
I miss you. I miss you a lot. But I always miss you, so it's not, it's nothing special.
For anyone wondering why we're doing it, we're scared Jim might have the Rona.
A potential exposure to the coronavirus. Hey, are you able to turn your mic up a little bit? I think you're a little quiet.
Does that do anything right there? Did that help?
A little bit. I feel like you're a little louder. Let me look
I'll
on my.
Talk louder in general. How about that?
Okay. Just start.
I'll be screaming.
Just be shouting in your apartment. So, guys, if you're new to the live stream, we encourage you to post your questions, post your comments, post your stories. Check in with us here in the Facebook chat. This is the intention of this is to build a wonderful community of support people. So we've over the past how long have we been doing this for? Months at this point now, right?
A live stream? It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah. At this point, we've built a beautiful community of people, and there's a lot of the same themes coming up and a lot of the same questions coming forward. And so your question is going to be the same question that somebody else is happening, or we hear a lot of connection on medication issues and stuff like that. So please don't be shy. Please feel free to share your stories, ask any questions you might have. And we're going to answer every question that we get tonight. We might be here till midnight. That's fine.
Speaking of questions, Jim, I'm having trouble seeing the questions right now. So if you have any that are coming through, go ahead and read them out while I am still getting these questions up on my end.
I don't see anything that's come through. Let me do a test here. Okay. Yeah, I see the test. But that's also that we are doing some technologically different
next level of virtual.
This is the next level of really slow.
I can hear my voice saying
I can hear it too. That's old. Okay.
Let's see. So as the questions come in for anyone who is rolling through, joining the live stream, just one more time, welcome. Feel free to post any questions you have. Tonight, we wanted to kind of discuss several different topics. One of them is actually about a a problem that Jim and I are still dealing with to some extent, and it's the issue of having a success barrier limit uh, your ability to accomplish goals. It's basically this phenomenon where you're doing the right things, you're doing the right things, you're doing the right things, and you're kind of moving up in your life. And at some point, you get to this level where you just kind of get comfortable, or you start to be a little bit uncomfortable with the level of success that you're having, uh, and you start to procrastinate, you start to self-sabotage, and it just goes to pieces. A great example of this is with diet. Let's say that you've been dieting, doing well, you're eating right, you're a problem momentum in your diet, and you're seeing the results and you're feeling better. And then as you're kind of getting those days under your belt, feeling better and better and better, you you have this voice in your head that's like, okay, I've been doing great for a while, let me have that cheat meal, let me kind of go easy for the next couple of days. And a couple of days turns into a week, and then before you know it, you're back where you started. And so you start again, and you're going and going and going, but it's one big cycle. And so what ends up happening is your life looks like this, kind of like a roller coaster ride, where you're moving up and then you're crashing down, and you're moving up and you're crashing down. And all the whole time, it seems like you're making progress, or it seems like stuff is, you're trying to do stuff, but there's always this sort of ceiling, this cap of success that you hit, and a floor of a bottom that you tolerate. And our whole lives can oscillate between these two boundaries. It's not just diet; it's also the way that you uh, clean your room. You know, my home, my apartment oscillates between being really clean and really dirty. But what's interesting is it doesn't typically go beyond those two levels. I have my limit of cleanliness. It doesn't really go beyond that. And I have my limit of dirtiness where it doesn't fall below that. And so a lot of the things in our lives are really happening in between our the lowest that we tolerate, kind of our bottom expectation of ourselves, and the most that we tolerate, our highest expectation of ourselves. The same thing with money. Your bank account probably oscillates between two numbers, where it doesn't typically go below a certain number, and it doesn't typically go above a certain number either. And a lot of what Jim and I have been talking about, especially recently, is how do you raise that bar? How do you raise the floor, and how do you raise the ceiling so that your life, even if it's oscillating, it's still higher in general? Um, so if you have any questions related to that, or if you resonate with that, please post that experience. We'd love to hear what that struggle has looked like for you, and if you've done anything to overcome that, we'd love to hear how you've done it. But for tonight, I'd really love to just kind of start that conversation there, Jim. You've experienced this for sure. What have you done to kind of bring awareness to that, or raise the floor, or raise the ceiling in your own life?
Yeah, it's really interesting, man. I mean, there's a lot of tools that I use to. I call that kind of subconscious blocks. So it's almost like you, there's so much I want to say. Let me do one at a time instead of trying to fit six
Yeah,
sentences out at once. So
sure.
when we talk about self-sabotage, this is a term that I feel like gets thrown around all the time, self-sabotage. And it's really interesting because, I mean, what's your experience with that term? For me, I always thought self-sabotage was like, subconsciously am shooting myself in the foot and working against myself. When it feels the way we're framing it is more like self-sabotage is like almost like a discomfort. like a pattern of old behavior that's maybe not aligned with where we want to go, but it's activated when we get somewhere. So for example, like you said with money, when you get to a certain amount of money and then there's a new feeling that comes in like, wow, I have money. Okay, I can relax. I don't have to worry about money, or I don't have to focus anymore. But what would you, I mean, talk about self-sabotage for a second. What's your association with that term?
Yeah, self-sabotage for me, when I think of that term, I think of you're doing the right things and you're moving in the right direction, and then all of a sudden you you stop doing those things and you stop going in the right direction, not because of some external circumstance. Like nobody is getting in your way. There's no external challenges. It's just you getting in your own way because you suddenly stop doing the right things, or a bunch of kind of negative habits
Mm-hmm.
start to come up out of nowhere,
Yeah.
or not out of nowhere, but they reemerge.
Yeah.
But for me, it really just means that you're kind of creating the issue on your own,
Yeah.
and it's not an external challenge.
So I want to put this in context of client work, and this is related to anxiety. And by the way, to everybody in the chat, Lisette, Noel, Shanta, Carmen, thank you guys for being here. Please feel free to ask questions and share with us, because and we'll go back and forth from this topic to your questions. But your questions are by far the priority. Hey, what's up, Tina? How are you? So I want to put this in context of clients. What I've seen for clients is like, we advocate all the time for holistic remedies, but we also don't stigmatize medication. But the research shows medication is more of a bridge. So the average healthy use that they find with a psych medication is, what's up, Gallo? How are you? Is about 6 months is average what the research shows to be most effective. What I find happens the most, and in context of self-sabotage, is a client who is making great progress, really, really digging at the source of their anxiety. So they're doing this inner, deeper exploration. They're doing great practices. They've changed their diet. They've changed their exercise. They're showing up to coaching every week. They're doing their homework. And then if they do use a medication that helps them feel, maybe 30, 40% better, then they might let go of some of those practices, let go of the vigilance of those practices. And I actually see this happen with clients who maybe 10 years ago had a stint with medication that was successful for a while, but then it stopped working, or they went off of it, and then something happened that triggered them back into having panic attacks or high anxiety. So that form of self-sabotage, or that kind of, not pushing past that ceiling, that getting comfortable with a lower amount of symptoms that maybe isn't their real deep breakthrough of getting to the source and the deeper cause of their anxiety, feels to me like one of the most relevant forms of what we're talking about here. Really ignoring that ceiling and not pushing through because they get comfortable, they're feeling better, and maybe they don't, they become lax in their time or financial investment in their mental health, or their prioritization in their mental health, and they want to go and fall back into that comfort zone of what they were doing before. Because truthfully, the process of working out anxiety can be uncomfortable. It is an investment, but the return on investment is so amazing. So that's what I think is rings a bell when you bring this topic up.
Yeah, the term comfort zone, I feel like, is the key there, where the client, at first they're in this comfort zone, and even though they may be suffering tremendously, that's still familiar and somehow comfortable
Mm.
to them because they've just been there for so long. And then uh, doing different practices, different exercises, kind of almost stepping into different ways of thinking about yourself, that can be unfamiliar and, in a sense, uncomfortable. And so, even though it's making you feel better and it's working for you, there's this pull back to the comfort zone, back to what you're used to.
Mm.
And I'm curious, like that's where I think it's so um, insidious because people are making good progress and they're doing the right things, but they fall back, and that momentary fall back can take a while to come to undo. For example, you know, it takes a long time to build a house of cards, but only a moment to make it crash down. And it's not quite the same with all your habits, but with so much of our lives, it's like we work every day to save up a certain amount of money. We uh, we talk to people every day to build up certain relationships, and then one bad day and you might buy something stupid, or you might say something stupid to somebody, and it can cost you a lot of time, a lot of energy to come back from that. And so I feel like a lot of this is mitigating that return, that comfort zone pull in a smart way, so to where when you see it coming, when you start to feel that urge to go back to your comfort zone and maybe act out in a way that's not smart, what do you do in those moments? How do you kind of stay the path, stay the course, even when you feel that pull?
Yeah. So, I mean, once you've made progress, maintenance and sustainability are two completely different topics. And
Yeah,
man, it's a completely different skill set to maintain than to achieve. Because first of all, you're probably weaning off of some form of support once you're hitting stride, or maybe you're backing off your therapy sessions or your coaching sessions, or maybe you're reallocating some funds into some other stuff or reintegrating back into work. It's like when you prioritize it, and your mental health is like the number one priority, and then as it gets better, it tends to get deprioritized. And it's like this with anything. So the key is really the regroup and building the ability to regroup and the ability to be resilient, meaning that you're going to fall, you're going to regress. It's a matter of managing the damage when you fall and then being able to get back on track. I did an interview with a nutrition coach yesterday that'll be up on our YouTube within the next week or so. And he said he doesn't mind if his clients cheat with their meals, but he'd rather they cheat for a day and go ham, because it's actually better to get like a concentrated dose of cheating and then get really back to much more intentional practices and much more kind of a clean lifestyle the next day. So his analogy was, I'd rather have you eat double the amount of M&Ms in one sitting than parcel them out over 5 days, because
yeah,
your body will respond to that better. And I feel the same way too. It's like you're going to fall off, and it's not a matter of falling off. It's a matter of being intentional and regrouping and back to that intentionality and back to that kind of clean
yeah.
lifestyle.
That's really okay. I like how you said that. I really like how you said that. It's not about just those moments of falling off. It's like the intent, that if the intention is just staying the same and you keep sort of going into that direction, then
Mm.
eventually there is progress, because you are um, starting again and
Mm.
again and again. And every time you start again, it's like, a little more, you're a little more ready. So yeah, I love that. I hope that's helpful for anybody, and I hope that's motivating some questions. In
Mm.
terms of that, let's kind of see what people are up to.
Yeah.
Um, let's see.
Noel says,
Got
hello there. What's up, Noel? Carmen says, hello. Lisette says, hi. Hey, guys. How you doing? How's everything
hello,
going? What's
hello.
up, Shanta? What's up, Lisette? Noel says, my heart is hurting today. I can't explain why. This is perfect, because I actually did some extracurricular work today, Enis.
What
I
do you
did
mean?
some extracurricular work. I shot a couple solo videos today.
Oh, wonderful.
And one of them was caused, where do you start when you're feeling bad? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do when you just are feeling bad? Maybe you don't know what bad means, but where do you start? And so, Noel, you said your heart's hurting and you can't explain why. It starts by identifying what's the feeling that you're feeling, right? So we start with this acronym called HALT. HALT stands for, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And this is kind of the first way to just quickly identify what are you feeling. If you're hungry or tired, there's a really simple remedy to those. Grab a sandwich, take a nap, and you should be feeling better pretty soon because you're going to be compromised in those states. If you're feeling angry or lonely, that's a little more complicated because anger and loneliness are two feelings that are kind of under the umbrella of loneliness under the umbrella of sad. Angry kind of is an umbrella term. So what I recommend people do is you do a Google search and type in negative feelings list because you know that if you're feeling bad, it's going to be more of a negative feeling. And we're not judging the feeling like whatever you're feeling is negative. We're judging it and we're using it as a guide to identify how you feel. So you'll find lots of lists of negative emotions. And so go on there and pick the emotions you feel. Maybe you feel rejected. Maybe you feel paralyzed. Maybe you feel frustrated. There's such a different energy to each of those different emotions. And so if you identify, wow, I'm feeling really paralyzed. And so then you think, well, what are you feeling paralyzed in? Maybe you're feeling paralyzed in your relationship because you've got an oppressive partner. Okay, great. So now you can kind of you're starting to get deeper and deeper into what's happening and what's going on. And so now you can kind of self-prescribe, well, what can I do about this? And so you're being proactive. And when you start to identify more deeply how you feel, it's very natural, automatic, and intuitive that you can kind of self-prescribe some options. And once you kind of go down the rabbit hole, I'm more specific about how I feel, I'm more specific about what it's about, and I'm more specific on what it is to do, the feeling will start to subside because you start to feel a little more empowered, a little more like you have some freedom to move. So that's what I would do if I was you, Noel. I would definitely start to get intentional about what are you feeling, get specific about what it's about, and then what can you do about it? Does that make
I love
sense?
that. That was great. Yeah, I love that. The combination of halt, the hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and looking at that list of common negative emotions, it's a really good place to start. Particularly the hungry one.
Mm,
It's kind of amazing how often I think they're just not really nourished.
mm,
Maybe you had like some kind of junk food a couple hours ago, but if you really sit down to have like a nutritious, lovely, grounding meal, it can do wonders for your whole body. Let's see, we got some. Tina says, "Hey guys, thanks for the helpful streams. Thank you for being here."
that's a
Don
lot.
says, "I've been talking to my therapist for a few months now. I'm feeling like I don't have too much to say anymore.
Mm.
Is that normal? Some days are good, some days are bad. How long does a person typically talk about anxiety? This is a really good question, especially we've got that video coming out about somebody who is suffering in silence versus really totally identified with their symptoms and talking about it a lot. So when you're in the let's say the chair, so to speak, of the therapy session,
Yeah.
and the spotlight's on you to share
That's a lot of.
what's
That's a hell of a picture you're painting. When you're in the chair and the
yeah
spotlight's on you, I love that. Yeah,
yeah, I think some people feel like that, where it's like, well, how do you feel? And there's this where do I begin? And sometimes I think people, so okay, so this might be you, this might not be you, but let me start. Some people, they have a lot that they actually want to say, but they don't really know where to begin. uh they don't know how to say it, and so they start to kind of, how do I put it? They start to kind of close down and shut down.
yeah.
And so they think, that's not important, that's not important, that's not important. And so they're almost filtering what they think is meaningful or helpful during a session. For that person, I would just say anything, whatever's on your mind, whatever happened that week, the first thing that you want to mention. If there's something embarrassing, that's the best thing to mention. If there's something you're not sure if it's appropriate, talk about it. uh, so you might be like that person where you're just full of stuff but you're not sure where to start. And for that, I would say maybe make a list before you go, before you're um, in that conversation and you feel pressure to share something, maybe just do a little bit of journaling before you go, so that you can um, be a little more prepared in terms of what you want to talk about. However, you may find that you're getting there and you're kind of cut off from your emotions. And even when you're journaling, you're not sure what to write. This is a different situation where um, where you truly believe, like, I don't even feel anything. I'm not sure where to even start pinpointing my problems. So the first person, they had too much to say and they weren't saying it due to embarrassment, kind of holding back. This person's more like, you're unaware of what's going on inside and you're just not sure um, what to say. Uh, Beyond that, you might also just feel not in the mood to talk about it, right?
Mm.
Sometimes it's like you're just done for the day. You're like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to think about this right now. I just kind of want to go and, you know, hang out with my friends or watch that show or take a nap. And you might be in that situation where, yeah, there's some stuff you could talk about. Yeah, there's some stuff that you might want to share, but it just doesn't feel right. You'd much rather just go and be at peace on your own. Now, all of this is normal. All of this is totally fine. Jim, do you have any, besides those three types, do you have any other types of that you might want to add?
I mean, to just to answer the question, I would say your therapist is a facilitator. So either there's something you should be working on, or something to be sharing. Now, if you're just shut down, like Enis was saying, for the day, that you have to really honor how you feel. But for me, if a client feels like they're shut down or hesitant, that's what I'm going to focus on, because that's a symptom of maybe a bit of a depression kicking in, maybe a bit of overwhelm. And so to kind of disarm and to dissolve that situation and resolve it is the importance. I can't think of a session. I mean, I've done thousands of sessions at this point, and I can't think of one where I've had like just somebody who there wasn't something to focus on. So Don, for you, it may be looking at, even though you may trust your therapist, it may be time to switch over to somebody else if you feel like you're hitting a plateau. Or maybe like Enis was saying, there might be a block to being repetitive, or you just need a break from thinking about or talking about anxiety, burnt out. But I would say it's the facilitator's job in a lot of ways to, do some mining, to do some challenging, to push you a little bit. And obviously there's a boundary there. But if you're feeling like you're opened on and you're ready to, you're really ready to continue working in these sessions, there is no length of time people talk about anxiety. I would say there's something else going on. But that, yeah, like I said, maybe you're burnt out, or maybe you've kind of just reached a plateau with your therapist or coach, and it's time to go to somebody with a new technique or new knowledge.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful. Ada says hi. Hi, Ada.
Hey,
Shante says, well, I stop being positive every time I get a panic attack. I will be okay for days, and soon as I get a panic attack and back on negative thoughts, I do meditate and write, yet I fail every time. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what this is asking. Feel free to reword the question, and if there's something in particular you want to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a question. I think she's kind of just sharing. But you stop being positive every time you have a panic attack. Shante, I would say that, I was listening to Barry McD, who's the author of Dare, on a podcast. I don't know. I don't really know his last name. Was it McDonough?
McDonough. Yeah.
McDonough. Amazing book called Dare, which is a process of challenging your panic. And he was saying that, and I hear this all the time with clients, that the number one thing they want is to go back to where they were before, who they were before they had anxiety. And that's not really realistic in a lot of ways. That's like, anxiety can be such a monumental change in your life, and it is for so many of the people that we deal with and so many of you here, that to think you're going to go back to exactly the way things were before is is something there's going to be a little bit of a grieving process with that, because the more you hold on to that, the harder it's going to be. And so, Shantae, I'm wondering if one of the reasons you stop being positive every time you have a panic attack is just overwhelming. You think you're not going to be able to work through it, or you think your life has changed for the negative so much that that you're just really discouraged. And what I would say to you, Shantae, is that, you know, this has kind of been inside of you, or it's just been something that's been triggered in you to really go internally and mine out anything that was dissonant within you, anything that was a conflict inside of you, and to honor and accept what's happened would be the same as to honor and accept if somebody became a diabetic or somebody got cancer or somebody. It's a tough situation. There will be a grieving process, and it can feel very scary and kind of hopeless. But we're here to tell you, number one, you're not stuck. Number two, you can tell by the chat, you're definitely not alone. And number three, that the faster that you accept and kind of commit and prioritize to working through your panic attacks, that means reading books, applying techniques, hiring a coach or a counselor, and getting really intentional about it, the more support you have and the less the negative feeling will overtake you and cause you to feel discouraged and hopefully not depressed.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so challenging when somebody has a desire to go back to normal. And what's really needed is to kind of have an upgraded normal where you're having this anxiety because for whatever reason, the way you've been living your life has started to not really work anymore. Maybe that job or relationship that you're in is finally coming to an end. Maybe that the diet or the exercise that you've been doing is starting to be problematic. And maybe it's something much more simple, and it's just the way that you've been thinking about this anxiety needs to change. Whatever it is, it's like when you feel that sense of wanting to go back, it can be a really big debilitator, because what's really needed is a deep, deep, deep acceptance of where you are now, so that you can move forward. And I think, Jim, sometimes we forget how difficult acceptance can be when
Yeah.
the feelings are new and overwhelming and just frustrating. It's like,
Earth shattering, man. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
it's
like, I don't
such,
want to accept
yeah.
this.
And you have to,
And
and you really have to think of it as it's so traumatic to just have these really intense physical sensations that trigger all these really heavy thoughts. These thoughts about, am I dying? I mean, am I compromised? Will my life ever be the same? I mean, those are really, really big and intensely traumatic questions to have to ask. That you know, and a lot of times when seemingly nothing's happened, nothing's changed for people. I mean, sometimes it feels like panic attacks come out of the blue.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's all just a big process of coming to terms with, like, not being afraid of the sensation. Fundamentally, this all keeps coming back to this fear and inability to cope with a sensation, whether that sensation is the related to your heart or to your sense of self, or dizziness, whatever it may be. Ultimately, you're safe, and it's just a fear of some sensation that you're feeling. Sometimes people, I think they mistake what it really means to accept, because I'll tell somebody, okay, so let's accept this to the best of our ability. And I'll hear something like, well, okay, yeah, I tried accepting it, but it didn't go away, or okay, I'm accepting it, but it's still here, and that's a clear sign that, well, that's not really acceptance when you have that alternate motive. I
Yeah.
mean, imagine you have a family member and they're struggling, and this family member is looking to you for support. They want help, they want your encouragement, and you're thinking, all right, let me talk to them for a couple seconds so that they leave already. And it's like they'll sense that you're trying to get rid
Yeah.
of them. They'll sense that. And
Oh, yeah.
so what's needed is just an actual, almost like a surrender, like, okay, I'm here. What's up? How's it going? And
Yeah.
just a sense of like, I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Let's be here together. And what that does is then, of course, the emotion does dissolve. The intense sensation does go away. But that just is, it doesn't happen if you're starting out with like, well, let me just get rid of this and do everything I can to get rid of this. Uh, Steve, I think, said it really well. He said, I don't think you ever stop talking or thinking about anxiety or panic attacks once you have struggled with them. But I think once you get a handle on your emotions, to them, it's fun to try methods to manage them. Anxiety has made me learn how to slow down and feel and think of what my body is telling me. This is a perfect example of how you actually don't want to go back to what was normal, because what was normal wasn't working. For me, sometimes anxiety is triggered when I am having a persona that I'm struggling really hard to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I'm at a party or something, a lot of new people. I want to make a good impression. So I'm acting kind of extra nice or a little fake. My anxiety starts to come in those moments. And it's a message kind of saying like, hey, buddy, be yourself, calm down, relax. You don't have to care about what people think. And when I heed that message, then I feel better. I feel, I can kind of slow down again. I can kind of be myself more. And if I don't heed that message, then it just keeps growing and growing and growing until I'm like, all right, I got to excuse myself here. So wherever you are in your journey, it's like, look at the things that are triggering, look at the situations that are triggering, and what you'll see little by little is, um, the anxiety is kind of giving you a message in certain ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, we got some questions about nausea. You mentioned that one. We got the halt.
Did we talk about nausea?
uh
We didn't cover that one.
So just a quick
Yes.
yes, it's normal. Nausea is
Unfortunately.
totally normal, and the reason it's normal is because when you're having a anxiety attack or panic attack, your body is releasing adrenaline and cortisol, and it's basically sending all the blood to your arms and legs. So the blood in your stomach is kind of leaving. What that does is it halts the digestion process, and it can create that sense of nausea or upset stomach or butterflies in the stomach. But all of it is just a very normal response. I think it's so ironic that people uh, fear that their anxiety is hurting them, when in reality, what's happening is the body is trying to protect you, right? It's saying, oh, there might be danger outside, so let me make our body more ready to fight or run away. And it's coming from this desire to help and protect the body, but we interpret it as, oh no, something bad's about to happen. Because there isn't a tiger and there isn't some imminent danger, we're like, well, I feel scared, so maybe there is something wrong, maybe there's something will happen. But it's just again, it's just your body trying to protect you, even though there's no external danger.
100%. I want to address, we get a little bit of a chat going on YouTube here. Welcome all to all our YouTube viewers. Guys, if you want to check out our YouTube channel, you can do a search for Inner Solutions on YouTube. We're always uploading content about anxiety, panic attacks, and anything mental health. So my friend Anna says, was trying to get in with the therapist, and she hasn't gotten in yet. And she says, I keep saying to myself, I'll do it tomorrow, but I always see it as this huge task on the next morning, so I just postpone it every day. And at this point, not to call you out, Anna, but it's been a minute. It's been a few weeks. And so with those few weeks is a few weeks more of struggling, really struggling with whatever anxiety she's going through. So I want to talk about the barriers to feeling better, barriers to treatment. This goes really aligned with what we started talking in this live stream about, which was, self-sabotage. And do you have any thoughts about what a way to break that cycle of I'll do it tomorrow, and kind of the how do you kind of reshuffle your priorities in your mind to push you past that barrier?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good question, man. It depends on a couple things. So, sometimes it's a negative association that is the issue. It's like the the thought of doing that action creates a negative feeling. So then you start to associate just doing that action with that negative feeling. And so every time that you think about that action and you don't do it, it kind of just reinforces that negative association. Uh, and so it does kind of get more challenging over time, because there's more and more momentum against it. So that's one challenge that people may come into contact with when they're trying to clean their room or make an appointment or start a difficult conversation. It's like every time they're going to about to do it, there is this negative association that comes up and overwhelms them, and so they back off, and it kind of just strengthens that cycle because the body is like kind of learning to not do it every time. The other end of that spectrum is you you're okay with doing the thing. There's not a negative association, but there is some belief about what's going to happen afterwards, where you believe like, what's the point of going to the doctor? They're not going to do anything. What's the point of going to the therapist? They're not going to be able to help me. What's the point of doing this? It's not going to work anyway. Maybe that's a belief that somebody has. uh, maybe that by going, you're going to have to do something difficult, maybe leave your comfort zone, maybe um, just be challenged in some way that you don't want to be challenged. And so that same thing happens where you're about to take the action, and just a bunch of different parts of you come up to say, wait a minute, I'm not so sure about this. And that's where you really just have to uh, kind of back up and just take a moment before you do the thing, if it's causing that much strain, to take a moment to remind yourself of like, okay, why am I doing this? What benefit do I think will come of it? And what terrible thing do I think will happen if I do it, or if I don't do it? And just to start to look at your mind and to start to look at what's going on during that moment, I would say is step number one. uh anything you want to add to that?
I think just, with anything to minimize a task, to decatastrophize a task, your anxiety is a part, typically a lot of anxious parts catastrophize. This is what causes the feedback loop in a panic attack, or what can cause looking at something as simple as, driving or flying on a plane, and will skew the overwhelming statistics, the objective statistic for, let's take flying, for example. Your chances of anything going wrong on a flight are as close to impossible as we can pretty much get mathematically. Yet there's a part of you, these anxious parts of you, that will catastrophize. And it's the same with setting up an appointment. It's going to be future predicting. It might be looking at over just catastrophizing the task. So just to naturally decatastrophize, say, I got to find a number, I got to make a phone call. That's it. Or I got to go online on the computer, I got to set an appointment. That's it.
Yeah.
It's
And
really
that's,
just to break it down into what's the next step and what are the key steps and to decatastrophize.
yeah. And I like how you said just sort of breaking it down into steps of like, all right, step number one, just put the number somewhere.
Yeah.
Get the number. It's like, okay, so that's the number I call. Okay, got it.
Right.
And then from there, it's like, okay, now, you know, what do I want to say? What's the first minute going to be when somebody says, "Hey, you've reached the office of so and so"? It's
Mm.
like, what do you say? What's that one sentence or two sentence you say? And then now that you know, like, okay, I know the number, I know what I'm going to say to that first question. Uh, then it's like, okay, now we call, and but really it's about if there's so much resistance that there's just something that's like not letting you do that. I think it's about decatastrophizing the outcome of it, not turning it into a big deal, but just looking at what are you so afraid will happen, what are you so stuck on. And I think so often it's just we feel like it's going to be worse than it is. Some overwhelming experience or some pointless experience, and we're just sort of protecting ourselves. We are essentially protecting ourselves from a bad feeling at the end of the day.
And
And
the real funny part of it is if you went to the therapist, he would help you understand why you couldn't get to the therapist. He would help you understand more deeply what's the subconscious block there of just making the phone call and showing up. But there's definitely more going on there. It's not just a simple I'm just lazy. It's not a lazy. There's a reason for procrastination, and whether you're in a depression and things just seem way harder, or you maybe going to the therapist is like really the next step of like, wow, I really have an issue I have to deal with, and because now you're in your comfort zone. But there's definitely something deeper going on there, Anna. Definitely.
yeah, yeah. We got some more questions here from Ashley. Says, doctors always recommend medication. I'm trying to look at healing naturally, change my diet and adding walking into my day, using my CPAP machine for sleep apnea. I'm trying not to use my blood pressure medicine. I feel like my anxiety started when I went on it. Haven't got rid of feeling detached from my environment. Working hard on this part. Yeah, great update, Ashley. It is a challenge these days when you go to the doctor for some form of anxiety. It's like you probably are going to get some kind of medication. But here's the thing that I want people to understand is everybody has got their tools, right? If you go to a doctor, yeah, they're probably going to talk about medication at some point. If you go to a chiropractor, they're going to talk about, posture, your bone structure at some point. If you go to a herbalist, they're going to give you some kind of tea to drink. If you go to a astrologer, they'll talk about the alignments of the energies that are affecting you. If you go to me, I'll tell you to meditate. If you go to Jim, he'll tell you to exercise. It's
What?
everyone's got their
That's not what I'll tell them.
things. That's all he'll mention. No, but everyone's got their certain things that it's like when a human being is looking at another human being and seeing that they're suffering, seeing that they need help, then the natural response is we try to help in the ways that we know how. In the ways that we know. If the doctor knows medicine, then he says, I want to help you. Here's what I know. Here's what I think can help. Um, that doesn't mean you have to take everybody's advice, because if you ask 100 people what to do, yeah, you're going to get like 100 different answers. So it's all about just seeking different advice, going to the doctor, going to the therapist, going to the so and so and the this and that, and just hearing what they say. And from there, you're uh, educating yourself on the options of seeing, and then most importantly, you're trying things, you're experimenting. How does this work for me? How does that work for me? And you know, don't take it too personally if somebody is recommending uh, something that you don't want to do, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. It's just something that uh, they think is going to be helpful, but you keep researching, you keep doing your experiments on what's working for you, and little by little you'll find stuff that works. For anxiety and panic attacks, we recommend cognitive behavioral therapy, we recommend meditation, we recommend diet changes, but that's a starting point. If that's not working for you, that doesn't mean that that's the end of the road. There's so much that we can uh, do to feel better.
Yeah, and I think what separates us is that we, having been through it ourselves, not only can we empathize, but we also have tried. Between the two of us, we've tried like everything. So we have this vast like tool shed that we just recommend to people beyond just the CBT or exercise or meditation, and we really try to make it intentional about how does this fit into your routine? How does this fit into your world? How will this benefit you? And it's all about finding the right tool for the right job in the right way. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, to simplify it, it's basically, step one is you figure out what to do. Step two is you figure out, um, why are you not doing it. And it's really kind of comes down to that. That sounds simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy, right?
Mm.
It's like, okay, you got that, as we saw, calling a number is simple, doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean it's easy. So it's like what to do, and then why am I not doing it, is the two big questions that you want to ask yourself pretty much on a daily basis. When
Mm.
you wake up, what am I doing today? What do I want to do today? And then if it's the middle of the day and you find yourself procrastinating or not doing something, why am I not doing this? And that's a legitimate question to ask. That's not a snarky question,
Mm.
or like a, to beat yourself up. It's like a, why am I not doing this? What am I afraid will happen? What do I think it means about me if I don't do this? What do I think it means about me if I do it? How will my life change? It's an inquiry. It's a question that you ask with the intention of really knowing, like, what's getting in my way? How am I getting in my own way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got some questions here. Let's see. Or Ada says, thanks for the advice. Thank you, Ada. Uh, Patricia says, hello. Good to see you guys. Hey there. Good to see you. Thanks for the support. Thanks for making Jim. Lisa says, hey guys, you missed some of the session. No worries. These are recorded. There, you can watch all of it on our page. So,
Both on YouTube and Facebook. Yeah.
mhm. Meditation is the best for me, Don says. Wonderful. It really does work as long as you're consistent with it. Stephanie says, what's the best way, in your opinion, to handle panic attacks around sleep and waking up in the middle of the night in a panic? So, yeah, so when it comes to waking up in the middle of the night, it's a really tough situation for a lot of people for a number of reasons. So number one, when you wake up in the middle of the night with a full-blown panic attack, there's this sense of aloneness because everyone's asleep. You have no one to call. There's really nothing to distract you. You can't really just go out or do anything if it's like 2 or 3 a.m. And so it's difficult because it forces you to just be in the panic. And you're sitting there feeling it, and there's nothing to distract yourself. The other challenge is you just woke up, so you're kind of not thinking very clearly. It's like maybe you've forgotten some of the tools and techniques that you've learned. Maybe you've um, uh, kind of just been disoriented, and you're confused about what the next best step is. And really, you just want to feel better. And your mind might be racing with all kinds of worries of what does this mean? What's going to happen tomorrow, etc. Ultimately, what's happening in that moment is you are waking up with an uncomfortable sensation, and what's required is to be with it. we mentioned earlier in the stream, acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. It's hard. And sometimes we might do it with the alternative, with the intention of accepting so that we can get rid of, but that's not really accepting.
Mm.
And so when you're waking up in the middle of the night with that panic, you know, there's some small things you can do, like make yourself a cup of tea, you know, drink some warm milk, drink some chamomile tea, uh, you know, read from a spiritual text that calms you down. Um, do small things that can help you kind of get your footing again. But beyond those things, fundamentally, what's needed for both long term and short term healing is to sit with that sensation and to see clearly that it's just a sensation. It can't hurt you, can't cause you damage. It's just adrenaline and cortisol moving through your body. There's a great story in the book Dare where they talk about when they give people adrenaline, like they inject them literally with adrenaline, you can kind of lead someone to feeling excited or feeling scared, depending on how the other people are interpreting it. So, for example, let's say that you just got injected with adrenaline. And because you just got injected, you feel alert, you feel a rush of energy. How you interpret that what makes all the difference. Some people interpret it as bad, and so they feel fear. Some people interpret it as kind of pleasant, so they feel excited. But ultimately, it's just a sensation caused by some adrenaline moving through your system. So to summarize, you wake up in the middle of the night, you just feel it. You allow yourself to feel it and know that this is just adrenaline moving through my system. Anything to add there, Jim?
No, I love it. Stephanie says, and how do you handle worrying about what other people think about your mental health issues? Wow, great question. I feel so self-conscious that other people are normal and I'm the messed up one, and it's like I can feel them judging me. Last one, laugh a lot. Well, Stephanie, first of all, ask as many questions as you like. Mm-hmm. And second of all, this is one of a causes of a secondary feedback loop that we talk about all the time, which is, beyond the panic attack or beyond the anxiety attack, there's the worry about the anxiety attack, and then there's the worry about what are people thinking about me. And so how do you handle worrying about what other people think about your mental health issues? It's, in a perfect world, I think in an idealistic situation, you stop giving a shit, basically. You let go. Now, that's not necessarily a short-term solution. So I would say your goal is to start exploring what are the causes that you feel worried about what other people think about your mental health issues. What's the cost that you're scared of? Is it in a professional context? Is it your romantic partner? Because there's some underlying issue there. There's some maybe attachment issue in a primary romantic relationship where you may feel like if they think I'm crazy, I don't feel support.
I can see you, but I think we're back now. Yeah.
Are we back?
It says live video interrupted.
I have that. There's a little bit of a delay, so let's see. Are we working?
Back?
Are we back?
Are we back?
All right. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Are we back?
So
Are
we're
we
back
in business.
We're back. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear us. I think you can see us, right? No? Yeah. We're here. Yeah.
I think we're good.
So we're talking about the destigmatizing. How do you stop worrying about what other people think about your mental health issues? What was the last thing you heard, Enis?
You were talking about the last thing I heard may not be the last thing they heard, but you were mentioning how your family and your friends and your kids, they all have these different kind of opinions of you, expectations.
Yeah. So, I mean, getting to the deeper place, understanding the belief under the fear, the kind of irrational belief there, right? So finding out the context, who am I worried about? And then what am I worried about? So like I said, with friends, is it that you'll be rejected and kind of socially isolated? and then challenging the thought in kind of a CBT way, which is like, well, in what way is this thought distorted, right? What cognitive distortions? Is this kind of all or nothing thinking? Am I mind reading? Am I future predicting? Go through the list of 10 cognitive distortions. You can check them out in the book Feeling Great, or you can just look them up online. And there you'll find I'm having technical problems, man. I just hit my chair and I sank really. It scared me.
You ever see you just shrink to 5 inches all of a sudden?
Dude, yeah. My goodness. You're the grounding, man. You got to be over here. You got to be in the studio.
Next week, I promise.
Yeah, it's Stephanie. Then it unfortunately, just like panic attacks make you face, it's gonna make you face a bit of a bubble burst, which is like, who's really supportive of you, and what relationships are you gonna keep? There's a funny Louis C.K. joke where when he got in trouble, he said, "I found out who my real friends are." And he was like, I didn't really want to find out who my real friends were because it hurts. But the truth is, if you're kind of coasting along and you've got these friendships that are maybe superficial, or, maybe for, they're acquaintances that they don't have that degree of depth, or maybe it's even with a romantic relationship, a partnership, maybe you've been in it for a long time. This is an underlying problem that has been going on for a long time. And maybe this isn't a partner who's aligned with you. And so you may have to let go of some of them, or you may have to get real about reshuffling your circles. And that's really scary. And so you have to be compassionate and gentle with the process of it, and just take your time. Be really intentional about doing the exploration inside of you of what relationships do I want to keep? What relationships do I not want to keep? And do you want to keep relationships where you can't be transparent, or you can't, you can't have flaws? I mean, that's a hell of a lot of pressure. And to be honest, I think some of those relationships are probably intensifying your anxiety. As Enis talked about, persona fatigue, feeling like you have to put forward a certain perfect image. Maybe this is one of the main causes of your panic attacks, and, the universe or God has kind of got your back and saying, hey, this stuff has got to go.
I love your answer, Jim. What would you say if it's a situation where the relationship is fine, it's just more personally I remember,
Yeah.
for me growing up, it was like I had support all around me, like people didn't care if
Right.
I was to come out and say something like I'm feeling bad. It was just embarrassing to do that.
I would say you do the first part of what I was talking about, which is you take more of the cognitive behavioral therapy approach.
Okay.
You get really intentional about what is the belief I have and how rational is it. And if I'm really just scared, I think then you target and you start to gradually expose yourself into the situation, meaning you target a friend who you're a little scared of, but maybe you feel like they've got your back the most, and you have a talk with them.
Right.
So you're gradually just practicing what does it feel like to be more transparent. And I think you're just going to feel this big, you'll be amazed with how supportive people are. When I have clients who are trying to come out of the closet or about their sexuality or about their gender, we pick the most supportive person they know and we practice, and then we pick the next most supportive person that we know and we practice, and then eventually it's like the fear subsides over time, and all this kind of internal irrational mental clutter, you witness it go by, and you can even start to laugh at it or be like, man, there's some parts of me that have some wild opinions about what's going on that aren't based in reality.
Yeah. I love that. I think so much comes down to exposure, as you were mentioning, where little by little you're kind of chunking it. I think it's a shame because exposure therapy works so well.
Yeah.
But everyone wants to kind of take the long way or the back road or something. But it's like, as you were saying, pick and if you don't have anyone that you really trust, it's like you can start by, I don't know, posting online. I think I've seen people, there's like a subreddit where it's just called Truth Off My Chest, where the whole thing is like you you write a few paragraphs of what you're going through, what it is that you're um, kind of hiding or ashamed of or embarrassed by or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and you just anonymously post it online, and other strangers will comment on it, and that can be a starting point for some people, so that nobody has to know. Um,
Can you share the study that you shared with me that Mark Manson did about the
yeah,
major benefit about a coaching session or a therapy session?
yeah, they did this study where they wanted to see, does therapy work, and if so, which type of therapy is best. And what they found is, yes, therapy definitely works for people. And in terms of which type, it didn't really matter. They didn't see a big difference between which kind of therapy someone went to. They didn't see a big difference between how much experience the person they were talking to had. The main thing that seemed to be uh, causing most of their improvement was just the fact that they were showing up to a setting where they started to look at their thoughts, started to look at their feelings, started to talk about what's going on. And so, just something about being in that situation, because I don't think it's something that a lot of people have. It's like most of us just kind of go through our day shoving feelings down and kind of, rushing through things and ignoring how we feel. But so the act of taking an hour to just sit and somebody says, no, really, how are you, and then you got to answer as honestly as you can. It's
Mm,
like that's that alone can do wonders for some people. And so, uh so yeah, it's like just trying something can make a big effect.
definitely. Stephanie asks, "What's the best way to do exposure therapy?" So I want to break this down. So this is from Dr. Jordan Peterson, very famous psychologist. He teaches at the University of Toronto, written a few books, kind of a big time celebrity. Exposure therapy done right is with support, finding the exact point, exactly where your edge is with whatever the phobia is. So let's say you have anxiety about going into an elevator. Will you think about, are you able to think about elevators? Are you able to look at a picture of an elevator? If you're not even able to think about elevators, then that's where your edge is. So with support, you go and you think about an elevator, and you do that until you get bored. Literally until you just are like, okay, I'm thinking of an elevator, I'm bored. And so then you take it to the next step. Well, are you able to go to an elevator? You're not able to go to an elevator. How close exactly can you get? Can you get 50 feet from it? Can you go in a building with one? Then you go to your edge and you stay there until you're bored. You stay as present as possible. And you just keep doing that. So a common anxiety with most clients that I work with is driving. They feel overwhelmed by driving. So it's like, can you think about driving? Can you go to your car? Can you start your car? Can you go to the end of your driveway? Okay, so then if the end of the driveway is the point, then let's go back and forth in your driveway until you're bored, right? Then let's take it onto the street. Okay, how far onto the street? And so on and so forth. So it's finding your edge and pushing your edge. And this is a lot of what the book Dare is about, if I'm not mistaken, Ennis, is it's almost like in for him, it's like you draw kind of your they call it your ring, or I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but you find your edge and then you just go a little past your edge to as far as you can. And then you have a new kind of drawn ring of what you can do. And then you go past that edge. And it's just gradually, it just becomes exploded. And it's not like you're going to gain an inch each time, but what you're doing is you're intentionally going into the struggle and empowering yourself by exposing yourself to it. And then eventually everything opens up. And so you're practicing the techniques in real time. You're exposing yourself to it in real time, and you're growing and developing the skills you need to cope with whatever it is you've been avoiding in real time.
Yeah.
That's
So
what exposure therapy is.
that's a really, really great way to break it down. Um, yeah, finding that edge and then just staying there for as long as you can until you get bored. Um, and it's the same thing with like intrusive thoughts. A great example from the book Feeling great by David Burns. He talks about somebody who is a religious man who is having some taboo thoughts regarding uh, Jesus and Mother Mary.
Mm.
And he is very, like, every time he thinks of this thought, he is flushed with guilt and embarrassment, and just he pushes it away vehement, like really, really strongly. He's like, I
Mm.
do not want to think about that. I should not think about that. Will not think about that. And of course, that massive amount of resistance makes it come back stronger and stronger. So that the what they did in the session together was he had him do uh, an exposure therapy where he sat there and thought about it for like 30 minutes or something on purpose. And of course, the fear initially was like, I shouldn't think about this. It's a sin. So they had to get like a priest to approve it. Then he thought, but what if the more I think about it, it's even stronger, and it comes back even more. And really, it's there's an understanding that that's not what happens. What happens is you get bored of it. And so thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it, eventually it what keeps it fueled is that resistance to it, that reaction where every time the thought comes, it's like you get angry or upset, or you get frustrated, or you get scared, or you have an additional emotional reaction to the initial feeling. So during that exposure therapy, you're just sitting there thinking about that thought until you're bored of it, until you're totally bored of it. You're not fighting with it to go away. You're not pushing it away. You're just purposefully thinking about it until it's boring. And the reason why that's meaningful is because now when you think about it, there's no emotional reaction. You're just bored of it. It has no additional stimuli. And that's when it stops happening so often. And even if it was to happen at that point, you don't care. But that's what keeps it from not coming back, is if it was to randomly pop up for a second, there's no emotional reaction to it. You're not resisting it. So it doesn't come up. Or if it does, it stays for a very, very brief moment. Uh, so whether it's a thought or a sensation, that's pretty much how you want to go about exposure therapy. But this is um, a summary of it. If you want to have some support with this, if you want, feel free to call us. Feel free to schedule a free call. We do entirely 45-minute sessions with people where we can kind of walk them through these things. So if that's something you're interested in, give us a call. Or if you have a therapist, mention it to them. Talk to whoever you go to already. Mention that you'd like to try exposure therapy. That can be really helpful for people. Uh,
And to schedule that free call, you can message us here on Facebook.
mm-hmm.
Just send a private message to the Inner Solutions page. Stephanie's also asking, how do you not feel guilty about taking medication? So there's all kinds of like, I don't know if guilt is the right word, or fearful, or what the right thing. As far as guilt, what is the guilt about? The guilt has to be, is it guilty because you feel like you don't deserve it? Is it guilty because you feel weak? Is it guilty meaning more like fearful? Because I have a lot of clients with health anxiety that are really, really nervous about taking medication. And to be honest, medication anxiety is one of the biggest accelerators of anxiety. Feeling like you're putting something foreign in your body, being scared of taking benzodiazepines because you're worried about addiction and withdrawals. Very, very, very common. I spend a lot of time in coaching sessions just trying to mitigate a lot of the anxieties that people fear about the medication and the side effects they're having. And they tried this for 3 weeks but it's not working. It's not working like they'd hoped. And to be honest, I'm sick of it. I'm starting to hate medication. No, medication's great, but it's one of those things where, you have to know more about what the guilt is about. But I spend so much precious time during sessions where we could be doing CBT or IFS, or even just doing some exposure therapy or anything, checking in, talking about whatever, just spent on we tried this for 3 weeks and this for 3 weeks and these for 3 weeks. I really think framing medication as a bridge and kind of like a bonus, if it works, is a really good mindset to be in, because there's just no guarantees with it, right? Some people it works amazing, but most of the people that I have as clients, it's it's up and down. It's just completely up and down. So I would look at it as an add-on, as not the foundation of what's going to help you heal. And as far as feeling guilty, as far as feeling weak, Stephanie, there's two kind of internal parts that I would say that have a dynamic here. One is the part of you that's criticizing you that you're feeling weak, and then the part of you that's hurt by that criticism, right? And then you're identifying another part, which is you're scared it's going to alter your brain. Well, actually, what you're trying to do through coaching is going to alter your brain in a positive way. So altering your brain is not necessarily going to be the problem. A lot of this stuff can be dealt with CBT, Stephanie, to recognize the irrationality of what you're feeling and to go look at some statistics, but do it with support, because if you're scared and you go look at statistics, then you're really susceptible to a part of you that's going to find the negative statistics and filter out all the good stuff. So look at the cognitive distortions and identify them in your thoughts. Mm-hmm. And then find a more positive thought to replace it with, which is, medication helps a lot of people. And most of what my anxiety, most of the anxiety I feel through the medication is not a side effect. It's actually an irrational anxiety about the medication. And, a coach or a therapist can really support you through that.
Yeah. 100% agree. Great answer there, bro.
Thanks, bro.
I think we're at the end of our session here. If anybody wants to reach out to us, please send a message. If you have an additional question, we'll answer it in the private messages. If you want to have a free call with us, likewise, just let us know. We'd love to talk with you. Beyond that, if you're having some Thanksgiving plans, hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving. Just, stick with it. It's like the same message we give pretty much every week. There's so much that you guys can try. There's so much that we can do to feel better. And it's just about trying different things. And if you find that you're not doing something that you should be doing, just getting curious about that, asking why am I not doing this? Maybe getting some support in terms of something that you're not doing. And so beyond that, it's just sky's the limit. It's like we can all feel a lot better by implementing some of these wonderful tools, whether it's exposure therapy or cognitive behavioral or just lifestyle changes. There's so much that we can do.
Absolutely. And guys, feel free. There's tons of free resources on our YouTube page. Please like and follow our Facebook page as well. We're here every Tuesday. We have our group coaching starting December 6th. If you guys are interested in that, it's going to be twice a week. So you get 2 sessions per week with personalized Q&A, with lessons we'll be teaching every week. Message us here on Facebook if you are interested in that. That is starting December 7th, so just a couple of weeks. So you definitely want to grab your spot now. And if there's anything we can do for you, any videos you want made, any questions you have, message us here on Facebook. Email us at hello@innersolutions.academy. And most importantly, for Enis, I'm Jim. And guys, just remember, no matter where you are, no matter if it's anxiety, depression, whatever mental health ailment you're fighting through, whatever relationship problem you're going through, you're never, ever stuck. You might just need some support. Thank you guys so much.